This is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Yo, so I didn't talk to you about this prior to getting on, but I was watching the NFL draft this week. It was on, and I was having this like obscene thought of imagine if like the draft that the NFL has every year had the following like bowling did, right? Like what if every year when the PBA would draft their team tournaments when they did before for the PBA league, if it had as much hype as the NFL draft. And I was thinking like what would be the top 10 picks after 2025 after the season, and I think we could pretty much cement 2025 season in the books at this point. I know there's the playoffs left, but it's wild to me that the NFL has hundreds of thousands of people. I think they said that there was almost 175,000 people maybe in attendance in Green Bay to watch a guy in a suit reading names off of an index card. And I just was like, man, this is crazy that this gets so much attention. But man, like I was thinking, man, imagine if bowling ever got to that where like they called like someone's name and like people would just yell and scream and they had no idea who they're even yelling and cheering for. But you're so loyal to that team that you don't even care who they pick. Because let's be honest, those people in the crowd, they don't know 97% of the players that are getting called. They're all looking at each other like, hey, did we like this pick? Okay, we liked it. And then they all start cheering.
And they're cheering for players who in a lot of instances are not even going to make the team.
It's hard to make the teams, right? You got to be honest. Even like you got to figure maybe the first 3 rounds to 4 rounds have a legitimate chance of making the team. And then anything that falls under 4 rounds, their probability and chance of making the team is definitely in the lower percentages. But maybe we could save this conversation for like when we do our like season in review for 2025 of like who our top 10 or top 15 draft picks would be for next year if we were, going to do something like the NFL would. Like if we were the commissioner or we were the teams, what names would we be calling? And I think it'd be very interesting to see how many people on that list we would have not even known that to call those names prior to 2025.
Fair enough. I have a league review for the people. I actually bowled last
That's
week.
the review. He bowled.
I hadn't, but that's about it. That's all. That's pretty much all I should say. I hadn't bowled in 4 weeks, I think. And not only had I not bowled in 4 weeks, I hadn't picked up a bowling ball in like 3 weeks at a minimum. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. We were bowling on the long pattern, and I had a pretty good look on the long pattern for the most part. But I don't know if I would assign it to the breakdown of the pair, or perhaps the pair being in a different part of the house that I had previously bowled on this pattern. But yeah, they were funky. They were a little funky. I saw that comment too. Race you for her in the chat. Never seen that name in the chat before. Comes out of the chat and says, Dave Botkowski sucks.
Out of left field.
I mean, where is that? Like, clearly,
out of nowhere.
That's somebody who's known us for at least 2 decades. I disagree. I don't think Dave Bukowski sucks. But okay, everybody's entitled to their opinion, I guess. But
It's such a random comment out of
yeah,
nowhere.
would love to know who you are, though. Race you for her, but nonetheless,
I got a feeling I think I know who it is.
Okay.
Yeah, here it is. Ready? I believe it's Justin Bykowski.
Oh, really?
Because I remember him having that screen name back when we were like in AOL Instant Messenger. Justin,
Wow.
if I called that, would be a good one though.
That would be a nice call, bro.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, I bowled like a dog. That's basically what it comes down to. I think I shot like 530. I missed numerous spares. Oh, look at that. You were right, Rob. What's up, Justin? How's it going, man?
Oh man, good to hear from you, man. It's been a while.
So yeah, I did not execute well at all. I didn't execute well. I knew what to do. I just really wasn't executing well at all. Was helping my teammate out with how to play them and kind of how to attack them, and he bowled great. I just dogged it basically for the majority of the night. I think I had one good game that was maybe 2-0. I know the last game I shot 140. So yeah, just terrible.
I mean, what do you expect though? Like we talked about this all the time, right?
I know.
Like you can't just show up once every month and you're not practicing a lot, are you, at this point?
No, I'm not practicing at all. I mean,
Why?
I should.
Where the motivation's not there? Like, why aren't you practicing?
The time isn't there. The time isn't there. Yeah, the time to do it isn't there. Right now is dance competition season. So most weekends, this weekend, I probably spent about 18 hours at a dance competition this weekend. So
when it's not dance competition, it's soccer season.
It is. You're right. I also went after I left the dance competition today. Guess where I went?
Soccer.
To a soccer game. Take her to a soccer game, and
so
then we were there until
when do you find time to bowl? You got to find time to bowl, man. Like,
no, I know. So I'm not going to say too much about this because I think we're going to create some content around this in some way. So I don't want to say too much, but how could I say this without saying too much? Let me see. When we were out in Ohio together, there was a conversation going on. Okay, don't say anything specific about this. Okay, there was a question being posed, a question that involved me. Okay, and the question related to my abilities as a bowler in general. Okay, and I got a lot of shade thrown my way, son. I'm just going to say that. I got a lot of shade thrown my way by quite a few people, okay? Also want to say, for all the people in the chat, that the professional bowlers out there, they love my league review. They love my league review. They love hearing these terrible games that I bowl as I critique their performances. So I was made aware of that. But I mean, if I had to sum it up, I was basically called on the carpet, was I not?
I'm trying to remember the details of who was in that combo. I don't know if I actually, now that I think about it, I thought you were going a different route. I don't know if I was in that combo.
Oh no, you were in this combo.
I was?
Oh yes. You were in this convo more than once, as a matter of fact. Now, how conscious you were as to what was going on around you, I can't speak to that. But my bottom line is this: I know I'm really I'm being purposefully unclear here, so I'll wrap this up. But I might decide to really start putting some time in. I might. Your boy might need a name shirt or two.
Ooh, interesting.
I'm going to say that. Okay.
Okay.
And you know that I'm not showing up to a name shirt in a local event. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I have to see what my schedule will allow, but summer is coming and I do have a lot of free time. And if there's any time for me to dedicate to bowling and to put some time into my game and, kind of get things together in a serious manner, the summer would be it. Right. So more to come on that.
Okay.
But, people are out there throwing shade at me, and I might have to show up and just show them a little bit about about who your boy is. So
Okay.
I got to see.
Cool. That's good.
We'll update the people on that. Maybe some content over the summer on that. I'll tease it in that way.
Real quick, I have a little bit of an update. I actually plan on throwing the ball for a few times in the next couple weeks. It's like the 5th time I'm coming out of injury reserve, I feel like. But I'm not saying I'm making any kind of official like big comeback. I'm not bowling any big action matches. I'm not bowling any tournaments. But yeah, so we'll see. The back specialist finally has gotten my my MRI. I got taken care of. I did it. By the way, that MRI sucks, dude. They get the new technology in today's medical fields that they would find a way to like have some kind of way like hologram when you're sitting in this machine that makes you think like you're somewhere else other than stuck in some machine like you're literally like a hot dog in a bun. It's such a bad way to do an MRI, and if you've done it before, it sucks. But anyway, so yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna start bowling a little bit, maybe bowling a league in the fall. I'm not sure if it's gonna be a sport or a house league, but like we talked about with your sport league, I can't bowl a sport league and half-fast it. It's just not gonna happen. I'm not gonna go every week and beat my head into the ground and not practice and just try to like wait for a pattern to match up to my game or a purple hammer that I have off the gutter, because that's what it comes down to right now. If I don't have a purple hammer off the gutter on a sport pattern, then I'm probably going to end up bowling 550, you know what I mean, or 600. But if you give me a short pattern and I have some hook with the purple hammer, you could be throwing the ball half terrible and shoot pretty good. But anyway, let's see some comments. I want to bring up Ed's comment. We will talk Battle of the Brands. I think our opinion is way different than Ed's, but we respect it. Battle of the Brands is much better than the PBA League because people identify with brands like Hammer Motive Storm much more than Motor City Muscle. I mean, not Muzzle, Muscle or Philadelphia Hitmen. It's a fair point, I believe.
Yeah,
I disagree with it.
I don't fully disagree with that. I don't think that the overall product was better.
We'll talk more. I think we can get right into it now if we want to. But
well, go ahead. Did you have other comments you wanted to bring up, or?
Yeah, yeah. Just want to talk some. Rob Hamilton's talking about if I want to become a house shot hero. I'm thinking that I might have to for a little bit until I get more comfortable with just physically throwing the ball.
I might have to as well, depending on my schedule, my kid's schedule for next year. I can't guarantee that I will be free on Tuesday nights to bowl the sport league. And yeah, I mean, if I'm faced with either bowling a house league or not bowling at all, I don't know. I really don't know what I'll do. But my friends that I bowl with, the people that I enjoy bowling with, they want nothing more in the world than for me to bowl a house league for a full season. But it's one of those things where they're setting me up because they know it's gonna lead to some bad result in the end. So I really don't know what I'll be doing next year either. I know I'll be bowling on some house for the summer, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that remains to be seen. But all right, what else, Rob? What else you got?
I'll consider house shots like a little bit of like training wheels. Like training wheels when you're learning how to ride a bike when you're a kid. Getting back into bowling, using the house shot to just kind of get back your timing and to just start getting, interested and motivated again. The bowl isn't a bad thing. Adam wrote, if Tim Mack can throw a ball after injury, so can you. Let's be clear. Tim Mack's injuries were way worse than mine. And he's made a comeback. My injuries aren't like Tim Mack's. So big shouts to Tim Mack for coming back.
People want me to team up with Mr. X.
I'm not disagreeing.
Mark Cancer wants me to team up with Mr. X for the summer.
Let's do it.
No, I'll bowl against Mr. X, but I will not bowl with Mr. X. I'm sorry. That will not happen. I don't care what the level of content that it would create.
Yo, why are people thinking I was flexing during that picture? Maybe I'm just big. Maybe it just, I just.
Rob might have to change his name from Brooklyn Rob to Rob Diesel. Bobby Diesel. I mean, my goodness.
You
You should be flexing over here, son.
dude, I don't want to.
You should be flexing over here, dog.
Dude, nobody wants that, man. Nobody wants to see that.
Put that work in, son.
Tim, our guy, man. What's up, Tim? We're gonna talk a little bit about Battle of the Brands. So
Great season, bro.
Great season.
I know you got the playoffs. You're taping it over the next few days, but I applaud, bro. Great season, honestly. Tremendous. Tim Foy is one of the guys that I hope the TV thing, the tour thing, we talked about it last week. I hope it works out because it would be extremely unfair for a guy like that to go out and have the season that he had and not get another shot at it, not get another crack at it. So great bowling to him.
Brett says, sorry to say, but you guys talking about league to get back into shape. Whatever happened in practice?
Oh, are you calling us patch pirates, Brett?
Look, guess what? Majority of the time you practice is on a house shot too, unless you could find a good place where they put out a sport where you could practice on a weekly basis. Most of the practice you're going to do is on a house, unless you have like a training facility. Like fortunately we do. You have Parker's training facility if you want. I have B3. But guess what? That costs money, guys. Like for me to go bowl an hour at B3 on a sport, if I want a fresh shot, is going to be about $50 an hour if I'm by myself. About $40 an hour if I'm going to bowl on something that's already laid out. And that adds up. I mean, if I wanted to practice on that once a weekend for every weekend for a month, I'm paying $200 a month to practice for 4 hours. I mean, that's crazy. That's a lot of money to practice on a sport. But I sometimes feel like the small sport tournaments are the best way to actually get practice in because you're under some pressure and you get to bowl on a sport. So hopefully everybody has some kind of small sport tournament circuit around your area. Because if you guys want to like take your game to a next level, like to me, those are the best places to start, to learn, to get better. And then once you start consistently cashing or winning those type of local tournaments, then maybe you could start thinking about doing some regionals and start bowling some mega buck stuff like the TAT. And then kind of that's how you work your way into maybe bowling a PTQ if you want to see where you're at. But I don't know. I just went down a rabbit hole there. All right, Mike, let's talk Battle of the Brands. My first question to you is how much were you able to watch this weekend? Did you get a chance to watch it all? Did you watch some of it? Most of it?
I watched. I caught up. I caught up yesterday and today. Today I watched the first match and a half live, and then I had to leave, and then I caught up on the rest of it later. Yesterday I had to catch up on the whole thing, but I did watch it. I did check it out. I'll be honest. I'm not real interested in talking about the bowling aspect of it. I like the fact that it was $100,000. I'll say that. You know, I know the money's getting split among more people than just the people that may have been throwing shots out there tonight. But listen, as a product, that pales in comparison to what the PBA League was. Right? Like, first of all, the PBA League was multiple shows. Okay, with various matchups, a bracket style matchup going down to the final two teams, right? This was simply bowl one game, Baker game, and the winner moves on. Okay, it was a very simple Baker team stepladder, and I think that severely detracts from the product, right? The format of the two games. And if you win one, you go to a 9th and 10th roll off. That or I forget what they did exactly. Highest total each ball. Then they kept going through guys. I think they did a couple different things year to year. Much more exciting format there. Much better format. The fact that it wasn't in Bayside takes away from it. I think that's a pretty obvious observation. It sucks that they have this great product, and through this time since they since they brought this PBA league in, how they have not been able to really make something great out of this. And that watching the shows this weekend, that was my overwhelming thought. It was like, wow, this is where we're at with this. What we had a few years back with this seemed like such a promising product, right? And now, just a few years later, I'm watching this promising product, this thing that was this promising product, and it seems to have had a lot of the life drained out of it. So I don't know. I mean, that's just my take, I guess I'll say.
I think you're right on the fact that it was a opportunity missed by the PBA. And correct me if I'm wrong, do you remember when Fox was first deciding if they wanted to come on board with the PBA? Didn't Fox actually come out to the
Bayside?
The Bayside, right? So I feel like if we look back at it maybe 5-10 years from now, and let's just speculate here and say that the PBA never ends up getting back to Portland. Okay. Let's just say that never happens. Will we look back at it and say this was maybe the biggest opportunity the PBA missed on? That like first couple years at Bayside was so good. I didn't get a chance to go the first couple years, but I remember hearing and talking to a lot of the players, and they were like, yo, this is wild scene here. They're tailgating hours before the bowling events. The whole like area like almost embraced the PBA, and I really feel like there was an opportunity missed there. I don't really know.
And to be clear, and we've talked about this at length, right? But to be clear, there were already issues with it during the time that you're talking about and I'm talking about, right? But I think the way I look at it and think about it is like if they would have tweaked it along the years to create a better product each year along the way, who knows where we could have been with that by now, as opposed to where it's at, right? I want to ask this question. I mean, it's gonna seem like an outlandish question or a hot take, if you will, but should the PBA at some point, Rob, have made that team format, the PBA league at its height, right? The whole qualifying, the bracket match play, et cetera, with all the matches televised. Should they have made that the main piece of the PBA and took everything but the majors? Maybe you have the team thing in the majors and everything else should have been moved over to Bowl TV where your hardcore fans are watching. And we have more team competitions. We're going to different places to bowl this team thing. We're ending up at Bayside, which is like a celebration of bowling at the end of the season. And done that for a few years in a row to try and create that as the main product of the PBA. You understand what I'm saying? Like they never treated this league as anything but a side product to the PBA. What I'm asking is, at some point, should they have treated this PBA league as the main product?
I mean, I don't think it would have hurt. I think there was enough TV time that Fox was giving them to do both, to believe it or not. I think what they could have done is they could have changed, instead of having like, I don't know, some of those events that we didn't really want to have, like, I don't know, the celebrity or the strike derbies and all that other, like, I feel like there was some TV time that they could have supplemented and had more team events.
But they didn't. That's what I'm saying. Like they didn't. I don't know who. No one has a crystal ball to say, "Oh, this is how it would have turned out." I'm simply asking. Like, I would have liked to have seen what could have been done with it if they went down that road. And forget about us. Forget about the hardcore bowling fans. I'm talking about the impact that it might have had on the non-hardcore bowling fans, the people who aren't that familiar with bowling, if they tune in and they now see like, oh, there's a team, and again, if they would have made some changes to it along the way to maybe not attach the cities or the celebrities that they did at one time, nonetheless. But legends in the building.
Rudy,
Legends
what's
in the
up,
building,
man?
always. Legends in the building. Say, I think PBA 50 tour is starting up. So don't know if you're bowling or not. But if you are, safe travels.
Watching this weekend for me, I think there was talking about missed opportunities. The one thing you could say about team events in general, Baker's team events, is it gives the players more of an opportunity to give some really good raw emotion. Okay. And I just sadly, Mike, I feel like some of the players on tour, they just don't have it in them. And I'll give a good example. Okay. Go back and watch the show today. Watch the match where I believe it was Brunswick who bowled Motive. It was the semifinals right before the final match. And Packy, AJ Johnson gets up and strikes in like the leadoff and yells and does what he does AJ things, which I love. Packy gets up and throws a just great shot, and he looks right at the Motive team and really gives them the business. He starts yelling. I don't know what he was yelling. I kind of wish he was mic'd up in a sense, but he's yelling, right? And that was the really turning point in the match, because actually Brunswick fell apart after he did that. But for the sake of what I'm saying, the point is, I believe it was Smallwood who got up right after Packy and then threw a strike, kind of answering back to Packy's strike. And this was the perfect opportunity for Smallwood or whoever that individual was, but I believe it was Smallwood, to get back at like the Brunswick team after Packy gave them the business. But then he just kind of strikes and just like walks back and has no emotion and just kind of like business as usual type. I could understand that emotion if you're bowling a singles match, because you don't want to get too high, because then if you get too high, it turns to two lows and then it affects your bowling. But when you're bowling Baker, and you're not going to throw another shot, maybe potentially never, because you might lose, or until the next match, which would be a next show where there'll be at least another 20 minutes before you do it. It really gives an opportunity for the players to go back and forth to each other. Okay. And I'm talking like real emotion. Like, you gave it to me, Packy. I'm giving it back to you now, Packy. Like, here it is. Like, whatever it is, right? And then, of course, like a UFC fight where people are hyping it up and they're talking shit and they're back and forth. After the fight's over, you shake hands, you say, great match, great competitive, good luck, whatever. But during the heat of the moment and during the heat of the match, that's what bowling needs. And I'm not saying that will fix ratings, but if that was a consistent product on TV, like you're talking about, Mike, right? Like the PBA league having maybe the main focal point of the PBA. And there was more of, this is my brand, right? This is Brunswick. This is Storm, right? We're bowling for not only us, we're bowling for the people who have supported us our whole time on tour. We're bowling for Bill and Barbara Chrisman. We're bowling for Motive, who's like, there's a lot of pride when they're bowling for these brands, because these brands take care of them. They take care of their families. They do a lot for these players, and you want to win for them. You want to win for the people taking care of you. I wanted to see more pride and more like dog in them to win. And it didn't feel like that. It felt like there was only a few players who were really trying to get at it and trying to get some emotion. But I feel like it fell flat otherwise. And I feel like sometimes the players aren't built that way. They're just not built the way maybe I want them to be built. Maybe I'm thinking too much of a kid who grew up in Brooklyn and grew up in the East Coast. maybe I'm just living in some fairy tale land where bowling, the players aren't the way they were when I was growing up in the East Coast.
No, I don't. I don't think you are, because you see it in high school bowling. You see it
Okay.
in men's college bowling. You see it in women's college bowling, right? I think team bowling brings out that aspect more than individual bowling, right? Than singles competition. And I agree. I agree with your point there that that becomes a more interesting product, a more watchable product, a product that the average viewer can more easily get invested in. Um, and again, that's why I asked what I asked. Again, no crystal ball here. Who knows? But I do feel like radical change, you know, has to happen at some point, because doing anywhere near what's been done for a long time now is not going to change things. Okay, so you can say what you want about an idea like that I throw out there, but at least it would be something radically different than what has been done up to that point. I want to bring up a few. Go ahead.
I'm going to bring up Hirsch first.
You're reading my name. You're reading my mind, Rob. Go ahead.
Yeah. So he writes, I get what you're saying, Rob, but rivalries have blown up and didn't do well. Look at the Rash Belmo thing. I disagree with this. And I'll tell you why I disagree with it. Because first, if you're in tune with social media, right? And I'm very in tune with social media, at least with bowling aspect, just because of the podcast. The thing that everybody wants to talk about on social media is Rash Belmo. And this is even in a rivalry at this point, right? Like, it's not, but it's two players that obviously don't like each other, and that's all people want to talk about. You brought it up yourself, right? So for me, like, if there's more of that just on a competitive nature, where you have maybe like let's just say Motive Storm, right? And let's just say the Battle of the Brands was a main focal point, right? And this was something that was literally of the main product of the PBA, and they were drawing back and forth doing a match, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I don't know if the Motive guys really like the Storm guys. It becomes more of an intriguing product for people to watch. Just like if Rash were to bowl Belmo right now, let's just say next year they happen to bowl each other at the US Open TV show, you don't think everybody's going to want to watch? I think people are going to want to watch. And I think that's an important part of sports is rivalry. And it has to happen for a product to be, for people to want to invest in it. They want to root for their guy. They want to root for their team. Think about your sports, loyalties. Big Mike with the Eagles, me with the Jets. It's just you're loyal. Think about the NFL draft. We just talked about it. People are cheering. They don't even know who they're cheering for, but your team drafted them. So there's a loyalty and there's a personal investment when there's rivalries. And that's kind of where I kind of disagree with you.
Comment I saw here I wanted to bring up. Robert said they should have a fall PBA league with 8 stops in 8 different cities. Too bad there's no money for it. Yeah, the 8 stops in 8 cities I think is tough. But I wouldn't have minded at some point to see this PBA league product put out as something completely separate from the actual singles competition, right? From the regular singles titles that they do. All right, Rob. I'm gonna bring this comment up because I don't want people thinking that we're ducking comments over here. We don't do that over here. I believe. You know what? I'm not even gonna say. I'm just gonna read the comment. Phil Doubtright, if you're familiar with that name, Phil Doubtright says,
I know who Phil is.
Yeah, I know who it is too.
Yeah.
Totally off topic. Just curious. Is a Hall of Famers, and he says, let's exclude Rash. Okay, I think being a little coy there, Phil Doubtright. Just curious. Is a Hall of Famers word worth it, given their status, i.e., turning someone in for a rules violation? So, if I understand the question correctly here, he's asking us if someone of Hall of Fame status, if their word should just be taken if they are turning somebody in for a rules violation?
It's a good question.
I don't think it is a good question.
I
I'll
think
be
it is.
honest. You know, you want to live or work in an environment where that's the case.
Ooh, see you throw it. You're throwing it. That's a good question too. Okay, living in corporate America my whole life. I'm just gonna be very frank when it comes to my experience in corporate America. Mostly everybody's out for themselves. Okay. And you could be in a team environment, team atmosphere. You could be a senior manager, a director, a VP, and you have to look out for yourself when it comes to corporate America. And I really only trust a very rare few people that I will confide in, and that I really think that, I could like confide in them some information that maybe could get me in trouble or something, right? So on that note, if you're talking about bowling, should you trust someone's word for that because they're a Hall of Famer? I think you're running into a little bit of a slippery slope with trusting someone's word, especially if that word is going to get someone suspended and thrown off a potential TV show. Because that's a big word. That is a big word to drop. Like if someone could just go to the commissioner and say, hey, I saw this person doing this, and this person's a Hall of Famer, and there's no physical evidence of that person doing it, and that they could potentially get that person kicked off a show, then I think there's just too much. Oh man, I'm trying to make this. That's too much of a punishment for taking just somebody's word, regardless of who they are. Mike, your thoughts?
Who's known as the greatest, most respectful player ever? Like when you think about guys who are not only great, but also known as like the classiest and most respectful guys in the history of professional bowling. What name comes to mind for you first?
Parker Bone the third.
Thank you.
Parker
Okay.
Bone the third.
Let me say something. I don't even care if Parker Bone the third is the person doing the accusation. Okay. It ain't flying with me. I'm sorry. If you ain't got proof, kick rocks. Okay? Because that's the world I live in. All right. If you're gonna accuse somebody of something, you better have the proof. You better have something to stand on. Because otherwise it's just an accusation. And to suggest that because of someone's accomplishments or resume that they should be able to throw accusations that should then be automatically accepted is ridiculous. And I'll be honest, I don't care if we're talking about Sean Rash or Bill O'Neill, because I saw that in the chat. I would say that it applies regardless.
Let me say something else here, though. Being a Hall of Famer doesn't mean, and I'm not excluding anybody, this has anything to do with anything. Just because you maybe have won 25 titles and have 5 Player of the Years and all these US Opens doesn't potentially mean that you have good character.
Alex in the chat was just saying the same thing.
I could be the great. I've known a million bowlers in my day, Mike, who were amazing bowlers. Okay. I know of one professional bowler who you could even put in the top 10 of all-time greats who has a questionable character. Okay. And that's a whole different ball game. If they're not going into the Hall of Fame because they're good people, they're going into the Hall of Fame because they're great bowlers. So for taking someone's word doesn't it just because they're in a Hall of Fame doesn't mean their word should be automatically taken, especially when that punishment could be a very severe punishment, like kicking someone off a show.
And but listen, in the society that we live in, where I don't know about all of you, but I feel like I'm always on camera. I almost act as if I'm always on camera. in some way, you got to have the goods, bro. If you're going to accuse somebody of something, you better have the goods, because people expect it in this environment, in this day and age. People aren't willing to just connect the dots themselves. They want to have the dots connected through video, through audio, through some kind of evidence. So yeah, I that does not jive with me.
I do think though, if a Hall of Famer does go to, and let's just say
Ramsey in the chat said Tim Foy does like that dog in him. He does, Ramsey. You're right, Ramsey. Tim Foy. That's one of the things we learned this year. Tim Foy got that dog in him.
I guarantee if the PBA had Tim Foy look into it, being an ex-prison guard, I bet you he would have got to the bottom of it. I mean, he might have had to break some heads in the process, but I guarantee you they would have sang like a canary.
Tim Foy into the paddock to do a whole search down. He locks it all down, starts throwing people's bowling balls out into the hallway, searching people's bags.
Yo, they'd have been singing like canaries.
Can I say? Oh, go ahead. Finish what you were going to say. I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
No.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. So, like, what I was going to say is, like, when a Hall of Famer does say or accuse another player of doing something, and this is general, right? I'm not talking specifically Sean. I'm not talking. Forget the names. But if someone who has been on tour for a really long time, who is credible, whatever, the PBA should definitely look into that accusation, right? And they should do an investigation, and there should be a lot of resources put into that accusation, and then there should be a clear transparency to the public of what they did, who they spoke to. It should almost be like they should put out a memo in a sense of like the USBC kind of does that now, in a sense where there was a story that happened with the college bowling, remember, with the urethane balls, and I think it was Parker's son who got in trouble, whatever, and they put out a whole literally like
I don't know about that. It was the assistant coach, right, who was a notable name. I don't know. I don't even know if they ever released the names of the students that were involved.
Really? Well, I think it was actually Parker's kid who was kind of involved in that. But all I'm saying is that they put out a whole investigation report. The USBC did, right? Now, you could conclude what if they left out things on that investigation report. You could always make assumptions about conspiracies and all that stuff. But I think the PBA would have been beneficial to do that, right? Where like, hey, there was an accusation that came in for Belmonte, and here's what we did, here's who we spoke to, here is the interviews, and here's what we concluded, and here was the results. Instead, you just got a lot of hearsay and speculation from people like us who was hearing it from every side, hearing it from this side, that side, who said what, who did what, who didn't do anything, and you could just never understand the full scope of the whole like investigation in a way.
Phil Doutright in the chat asking, should the PBA let go of any rule that depends on player integrity then? No, certainly not. I just think that the process through which those issues are dealt with, I mean, I guess it could be argued that perhaps the PBA needs to put in a more clear process to follow in situations like that, and how they're going to respond to it, maybe. But I'm going to say two things here, and then we're going to move on to a different part of this discussion. And if you want to say anything, Rob, obviously you can follow me up. The first thing I want to say is this: if somebody's a Hall of Famer out on tour, okay, and they have that kind of rep, all right, they have that kind of respect amongst the players, okay. Even if it's another Hall of Famer that's involved in the suspect behavior, okay, I would feel, and I never bowled on tour. I have no idea what it's like out there. I'm just giving you my 2 cents of what my viewpoint would be if I was involved in that environment, right? I would think that the right way to go about that would be for that Hall of Famer who sees that questionable behavior to approach that person who's involved in that questionable behavior and pull them aside and say, listen, I noticed that you're doing this. I want to let you know, as a professional that's been out here for this many years, etc., we don't do that out here. If you're going to continue to do that, that's going to be a problem. And I'm just letting you know that I have a problem with it. Because again, if somebody is of that status, I believe that the person who's receiving that message is going to receive that message from that person with that status in a different way. Okay. Now, the other way to go about it, after you have that conversation, if you're still not satisfied with that, then the way to go about it would be to have a conversation like that and then go to the tournament director and say, hey, listen, I noticed so and so is involved in this behavior. It shouldn't be going on. I know it shouldn't be going on. It's not a good look for any of us. It's not professional. I'm letting you know about it because I expect you to keep an eye on it, follow up on it, and do what's needed. Okay? And that's it. You leave it at that. You walk away and you leave it at that. And if it's me, I'm going to go back to the original person and say, hey, I'm just letting you know I let the tournament director know what I saw. I know he's not going to follow up on it in this instance, but he's aware of what you're doing, and they're likely going to be watching or looking, etc. Second thing I'm going to say is this. I can't believe that this is the type of environment that these guys on tour really want to be bowling in all the time, where you constantly got to be looking over your shoulder to see who's going to snitch on you for whatever. I mean, are you telling me that these guys aren't involved in more questionable behavior than just vaping in a player's locker room? Am I really supposed to believe that? Because I'll be honest with you, Phil Doubtright, I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a second. I think there's way more questionable character actions going on out on tour on a regular basis than somebody vaping in a player's locker room. And I think when you start to drag that player's business out into the public view, okay, you're inviting everybody to do that to everybody. And, without going too far into examples, again, I don't think that's an environment that anybody wants to be in out there. So that's what I'll say.
I kind of agree with Ramsey here and just a quick response, and then please can we be done with this subject? Two people who hate each other aren't going to speak respectfully or professionally, most likely.
Fair point.
That would be my imagine, and I'm thinking about if it's
Fair
my
point.
shoe.
Yeah,
Doesn't
have to be respectful though, Ramsey, right? I mean, I think it should be, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a hey, yo. Well, I gotta watch my language on here, but nonetheless,
No, you
Ramsey,
don't.
you feel what I'm saying, right? You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, look, the whole thing is ridiculous. I think there was a few instances here where I think one of to me the biggest issue is I kind of disagree with Rash's Facebook post. I think that post really should have never been written, and I think it was just an emotional post that he posted. But I do like the fact that he also though wasn't afraid to speak his opinion. If that's how he felt, he aired it out on social media. He aired it on Facebook, and I think the players need to be able to air their grievances more than they do. And look, we're a podcast, and how many times do we tell the pros that we wish that they could be more outspoken about how their feelings are without getting into trouble? And I feel like he got in trouble in this post, and I think that's what's going to kind of take us to the next topic here. Is I noticed that Rash didn't bowl this weekend on the Global 900 team, Mike. And
where there's smoke, there's fire, Rob.
Speculation here is that
where there's smoke, there's fire, Rob.
I hate to say it, but I'm just there's something off with this whole thing, though. Like, could have a Facebook post that he wrote really been the really major reason, major cause for Global to let him go? Like, I just don't. I think there's more to this than we know or that anybody knows? Because something doesn't seem right. I don't think.
You come at the king.
Oh.
You best not miss.
So you think this is a? Let's just call a spade a spade. You think this is because he came at Belmo?
You come at the king, and you best not miss.
Fair point.
Come on now. Come on now.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think I said this at the time, but when Sean signed with 900 Global, it was surprising to me. And it showed me something about Belmo. Okay. It showed me that Belmo is not a vindictive person. It showed me that Belmo is not somebody who's going to hold it over his head and say, "Oh, no, not that guy, not him, no way." Because listen, let's be clear, okay? If any of you out there think that Belmo couldn't have shut that down before it happened, you are 1,000% wrong, okay? And he didn't. He didn't, right? So,
is this true though? Did he sign before the storm? I don't think so. I think that's
I
wrong.
don't think so.
I
That's
think
not
that's
how I
wrong.
remember it.
No,
Nonetheless, even
I
if
think
that's
that's wrong.
true, could it the day that they did the merger, he could have stepped in and said, "Yeah, do the merger, but not with that guy." Okay, and he didn't. He didn't. So take that for what it's worth. Okay.
No, because I remember
But
when
now, hold
Tobias
on. Let me
put this
finish.
wrong here.
But now, the same guy who you let in, and I know I'm speaking loosely here, but let in to be a member of your team, I use that loosely, okay, is now taking shots at you. And like, how much are you going to put up with that for? How much are you going to put up? Now, am I insinuating at all that Belmo was the reason behind any of this? I am not. Let me be clear. I am not. I am not. I think if anything, this situation was more of a straw that broke the camel's back than it was the reason for any decision that has or has not been made. Right? And I feel badly for Sean. I do, because we know him, like, and I do feel badly for him, and it's a tough situation to be in. But I'm going to say this, and I rarely, if ever, talk about my personal side on this show, but I'm going to do that for the next few minutes, okay? Because I understand a little bit about this. I am not very well liked in my job. Okay, I am not liked at all in my job. All right, and I'm not going to get into a deep discussion on the reasons why.
Can
But
we? Please?
suffice, if you want, we could start a teaching podcast and we can get into all those reasons. But suffice to say that I choose to do things differently than a lot of people around me. Okay. I don't care about their opinions. I don't care what they think about what I do. I'm not there to make friends. I don't need a social life through my job. And if there's any of you out there that teach or that are in the public education game, I think you'll know what I'm saying is very true. A lot of people that work in schools, their whole social life is through the school, is through the job that they work at. The majority of their friends and the people they hang out with is who they hang out with. Those are their friends. I literally have one person at my job that I talk to outside my job. That's it. Okay. I'm not very well liked. Okay. Not only am I okay with it, I wear it like a badge of honor. Okay. And again, I'm not going to get into the reasons for why I feel that way. This is a pedagogical discussion about education, about why I feel this way.
This is
Okay.
killing me.
But here's where I'm going with this, and I appreciate you all hanging with me this long. But here's where I'm going with this. I know this about myself. I'm very self-aware in that way. I'm okay with it. And you know what? I'm willing to stand on it no matter what it means. Okay? And I'm just going to give you one example. There's a lot of people at my job, they eat lunch together every day. They go out to lunch together every day. Okay? And a lot of you are going to think this is sad, but I'm going to tell you something. Do not look at it that way, okay? I prefer it this way. For the last 20 years, I have gone and eaten lunch by myself in a park every day. Okay? Because there is nobody that wants to go out to lunch with me. Okay?
Can somebody please go out to lunch with me?
No. Here's the reality. The reality is that I don't want to because I'm so anti those people. And I'm so different than those people in terms of the way we view things and the way we do things. Okay? And now I'm going to bring it back to this situation. Okay? Sean Rash reminds me a lot of me in that regard. Okay? He reminds me of somebody who ain't out there to make friends. He don't care. Okay? He ain't interested in your opinion of him. All right? And he's out there standing on his own. Okay? Here's the problem, though. When you decide to take that path, when you decide to take that route, you got to be willing to stand on whatever comes with it. It's not easy. It's not easy to be that way. I understand this. But you have to be willing to stand on whatever comes from it. And if you're not willing to stand on whatever comes from it, then you better change your attitude right quick. Okay? And find another way of doing things. All right. But if that's the way you're going to be, and if that's the approach you're going to take, and I want to be crystal clear here. I respect that approach. I understand that approach. Okay? But if you're going to take that approach, you got to be willing to stand on whatever comes with it. Period.
Well said, Mike. And Mike, if I'm ever in New Jersey, I will come to lunch and come and eat a cheese sandwich with you in the park. And we can talk bowling. We could talk life. And yeah, well said, though. All right. Can we move on from this whole crazy debacle of our fans in the chat are just killing me right now. I don't know a lot about NASCAR, but he says that Sean Rash is the Kyle Busch of the bowling world. I do know Kyle Busch is very unliked. I don't know how I know that because I've never watched a NASCAR race in my life. People want to know if Charlie wants to know if you're feeding pigeons.
No, I'm feeding myself, son.
He's got a picket. Alex Sorge says you got a picnic blanket and a cheese sample platter.
Nope, I eat in my car. No. On a nice day, I might get my lunch out and put it on the hood of my car and stand outside if it's a really nice day.
Yo, Les Sherwin, what's up, man? Les, it's been a while, Les. Good to hear from you. I hope all's well. Robert Hamilton, PSA is brought to you by Sweep the Rack. Mike's dropping wise words of wisdom in about eating lunch by himself. And I already have a meme already planned in my head to release Monday about Big Mike story about his lunch. So yeah, I can't wait to release that meme. All right, Mike. Anything else we want to talk about before we get to worst of the week?
No, I think we're good. Let's go. Let's try and wrap this up within an hour, please.
All right, let's roll. Do people want you to start a hour out to lunch, Mike Worms, out to lunch by Big Mike, a new podcast? Gonna need a food review, maybe a bowling review, maybe the teaching events of the day. I would tune in for Big Mike's Out to Lunch podcast. Dude, hilarious. That's a great story. All right, Mike, I'm gonna go first. Because if you're following us on social media, I've been consistently putting out a lot of reels every day. And I think a lot of people appreciate the reels. A lot of people don't want to listen to us talk debauchery for an hour and a half a week. People rather spend 30 seconds of their day and listen to our debauchery and then comment.
We're probably more digestible in small doses.
Probably an hour to an hour and a half of us is a lot for anyone. So shouts to all you in the chat that tune in every week and listen to us rant and rave and go off the rails for an hour and a half about bowling.
See,
but
this is an interesting sweep the rack / Big Mike work experience crossover. Mark is right. Mark is like a sweep the rack historian. I have had 2 people from my job on this show, and yes, now one of them I really only talk to outside the job. The other one I talk to while I'm at work once in a while. But yes, you are right about that, Mark. So you see that. Good catch, bro. Go ahead, Rob.
So we talk about string pins. Okay, and I put some reels about us talking about string pins. And one of the reels that got a lot of views and a lot of chatter was talking about how string pins is going to cut costs for bowling alleys, right? And talking about how like it's a necessary evil. Well, worst of the week goes to Willie Cook, okay, who I went a little bit of back and forth with Willie because this comment is exactly the problem in bowling as an industry, because this doesn't just doesn't like equal string pins. This is also probably sports type stuff, right? Sports shot. So he wrote to my response of talking about how it's going to cut costs. What a lie. There is no one with an idea to make real bowling alleys energy efficient? ? No one with an idea besides the stupid string pins? ? Then he talked about something about Elon Musk. I'm not going to get into that. And then he wrote, I've been bowling the last 3 years and had a 185 to 190 in 4 leagues. Now with string pins, last year I am at 175 to 180. Many are not so fortunate, going from 200 to 150. So my reason why Willie won worst of the week is because are we really going to get down on string pins because essentially your average dropped 15 or 20 pins? My response to him was, well, have you ever thought of a thing called practice? If your average dropped 15 to 20 pins, well, maybe that's your real average of what it dropped to, right? Maybe if you want to get back to 190, you use that as a motivation for yourself to go take lessons, go learn the sport, go practice, go do the work that a lot of people in this chat, including Alex Sorge, who just commented, right? Talking about if you're going from 200 to 150, you have to say it. Their strings aren't a problem, Haas. You're 100% accurate. How much work has people put in? Ramsey knows. Ramsey's out there on the PTQs grinding every week. How much work, Ramsey, have you put into the game? How much work have we all put in when we were younger to try to get to the highest level? And it's still, you could not, it's hard to get there, even with all the work and money, time, investment, and people complaining because string pins is going to drop their average 20 pins. Well, wake up, go practice, learn the sport, put the work in, and you'll get to 190 before you even know it within about 6 months.
T-shirt idea. T-shirt idea. You ready? It ain't the strings, it's your swings.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I like it.
Real talk.
Anyway.
All right, you ready for me?
I'm ready.
Okay. This post is from the Motive Bowling social media page.
Ooh, the Patch Pirates were wilding though this weekend because of the brands. Ooh, they were all like,
it was probably like the scene from Anchorman, where all the news anchors meet up and they all converge and have this battle to the death, right?
No commercials, no mercy.
Yeah, the Patch Pirates were probably
Spanish language news channels here. No,
to death out there this weekend. And can I just say, Motive, bravo, excellent job this season.
Great year.
Great year. But I'm sorry. You have the worst patch pirates in the history of patch piratism. I'm sorry. You just do. This is
Very
just
loyal.
I'm sorry.
Very loyal Pirates.
This post is from Nico Loverdi.
Ooh.
Congratulations.
I thought you were giving it to Nico, other Nico.
No, you have
It's always
won.
in the chat. No.
No, I would never give Nico worst of the week. No doubt. Nico Laverty, congratulations. You won worst of the week. Here's his post. So I think I have had just about enough of trying to get this Jackal Onyx to do anything but skid down the entire lane. Zero reaction. Not early, mid lane, or late. It just sucks for me. This is the oil pattern, which I had no luck. My primal shock was the most effective ball, but even struggled to really have a consistent break point and turn to the pocket. The lane seemed to read really early and flatten out. Tried my Max Thrill Pearl and it had a bit more, but nothing that led me to say that's the winner. Used the Jackal Onyx, Primal Shock, Venom EXJ, rubbed with 1,000 Grit, Max Thrill Pearl, Hammer Special Effects, Sublime Focus. I tried them all and nothing really grabbed my attention. What's next? Your thing that I don't own? Or maybe my Roto Grip clone? This video was my Primal Shock. It had a reaction, but this was after 6 games. Perhaps I just needed to learn to read the lanes better.
How many balls did he throw? Not post.
Jackal Onyx, Primal Shock, Venom EXJ, Max Thrill Pearl, Hammer Special Effects, Sublime Focus.
Okay, so here's some advice for what was his name?
Nico.
Okay, Nico. Not Nico, our Nico. Random Nico. I've been to tournaments where I've brought in 8 balls with me, 7 in a spare ball. I've been to tournaments where I've brought in 10 balls with me, 9 balls in a spare ball. I bowled 6-game tournaments, 8-game tournaments where I've thrown every ball in my bag by the 4th game. Okay? Do you know what you do after that? You literally bend over, you kiss your ass, can't wait to get out of there at 8 games, and then you leave. Sometimes it just doesn't matter what you throw. It just doesn't match to what you're trying to do. But I would definitely give some advice if he's bowling on some kind of house shot, then it's probably something physically that he needs to work on.
Here's the best part. Because the post leads you to believe that they're bowling on like the U.S. Open pattern, right?
Something flat. That
they were bowling on something that was 7-1.
Yeah, and he still couldn't figure it out. You probably need to
Nico,
get a lesson.
Some advice.
Get a lesson.
Worry less about the bowling balls. Get some advice on how you throw it. Okay,
dude, it's such a lost art these days,
oh,
Mike.
God, it's terrible.
People, 7 balls. Think about it. If he would have drilled 2 less balls, he probably could have got 2 or 3 like actually really good
2
lessons.
less balls. How about 6 less balls?
6 less balls.
6 less balls. 12 more lessons. How about that? Good.
All right, let's
wrap
this up. This is the better shirt, Mike. If it ain't the strings, it ain't the strings. Go work on some things. that is the best thing I could ever. Alex, that is a money idea for sure, and I love it. We're gonna make that.
Oh man!
All right, Mike.
We might be able to get a Joey Pants patch of approval on that shirt too. I hear he's a big fan of the strings. All right, can I make the haters mad for a minute, Rob?
Okay, is this your final thought?
That's my final thought. I'm gonna make the haters mad with my final thought because, there's a lot of haters out there that love beating on us because we're so negative. We're always so negative. Oh, worst of the week. Oh, terrible to Lewis Napolis. I'm the worst person ever in the bowling community. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, listen. And I'm serious about this, okay? All the people listening to this podcast, I'm dead serious, okay? Please follow up on what I'm about to say right now, all right? I came across this post. I don't even know where it was from. I cut off the picture where the post was from, but here's the post. It says, big bowling moment alert. On April 6, 2025, 10-year-old Gleason, I hope I'm saying that right, Gleason Garski, Garske, Garke maybe, rolled his way into the record books with a sanctioned 8-12 series at Lilac Lanes and Casino in Spokane, Washington, including a perfect 300 game. His incredible set included games of 235, 277, and 300. But Gleason isn't just knocking down pins. He's lifting up other young bowlers, too. He's the founder of Every Kid Bowls, an initiative helping kids get their first ball and bag by raising funds through sweatshirt sales. His mission? To grow the game and support those who want to bowl but may not have the gear to get started. Keep an eye on this young star both on and off the lanes. Yo, shout to this kid. Can somebody put us in touch with this kid? Not the kid, his parent. Can somebody put us in touch with this kid, Gleason's parent? Because I would like to have the parent and Gleason on this show, number one. And I'd like to personally give him a shout for his accomplishment here of shooting 800. But more so, I'd like to hear more about this project that he does. And I would like us to be able to support him in that in any way that we can. So I know the bowling community is a small community. Put us in touch, please. I'm going to let things happen. Okay. Love that. Love that. Nice job, young man. Not only with the bowling, but with the efforts too. Love it. And to the haters, you see, when I see something positive, I don't hesitate to bring it on here. Okay.
Dude,
negativity down here.
We learned a lot about Mike in this show. We learned that he eats lunch by himself. We learned that he's actually got some positive news in him every once in a while. So yeah, I mean, this is we're growing as people here.
You know what we need, Jimmy? When you listen to this, Jimmy, here's what we need you to drop this week. You know the meme from Narcos? You know the Narcos meme with
well, that was going to be my meme tomorrow.
Pablo.
That was my meme of him eating. That was it. That was what I was thinking.
On the swing, right?
Yeah.
We need Jimmy to take my face and put my face on that.
You don't need Jimmy. Look, you got a media guy here. I'm on it.
Okay.
That was my meme idea tomorrow. You stole it because it was too good. Okay, I'm going to close up. Landon in the chat. What's up, man? Yo, Landon's got game.
Nice season, bro.
Yep, keep grinding, Landon. You're close, man. You're close. It's tough out there. My final thought is, I'm making a promise to our viewers and our fans. We've been doing this show now going on close to like six and a half years at this point. So I can't even imagine how time flying by. But I'm gonna continue to make a promise that on this show. This podcast, we will never, ever mix politics with bowling content. And take it for what it's worth, what I'm trying to say here, but this is a politically safe zone. We will never have any personal vested interests or any personal viewpoints mixed in with our bowling content. Sweep the Rack is strictly bowling related, bowling debauchery, everything bowling. So I still continue to make that promise to our viewers, because in this day and age, it's so easy for people to want to push their own political agendas on a podcast when people aren't asking for it. So that's my final thought. Take it for what it is. I just wanted to make that statement and wanted to
cheers, Rob.
Cheers. All right, let's wrap this up and get out of here. I got some beautiful out, 70 degrees. I got my windows open.
All right, guys, we appreciate everybody joining us as always. Follow us on social media. That's where we do most of our talking when we're not on here. He's at Brooklyn Rob 11. I'm at the 215th. Email us. So many emails have come in over the last couple of weeks. And honestly, anybody who reached out to me, I know I said it already, but about the speech, you saw it, you reached out. I greatly appreciate it, honestly. It means so much to me that so many people reached out. Email us, sweettherack@gmail. All right, we always appreciate the emails. Not much bowling action, Rob, and I don't want to tease people too much, because we never know how things are going to work out week to week here. We're always kind of flying by the seat of our pants a little bit, but there's a possibility next week might be our best show ever.
We have an interview.
Throw that out there.
Hopefully.
Next week might be one of the best shows ever.
So yeah, I would put 2
we'll
hours
be here.
away.
We'll be here either way.
Either way.
If we send out an announcement this week, make sure that you are here. I'm just going to tell you that. So everybody have a great week. Okay, enjoy. PBA playoffs are being taped. Right, we're not going to ruin that for anybody. But if you want the info, I'm sure you could find it in terms of who wins. I am going to be on the Herb FM radio show tomorrow night.
Celebrity appearances. Yo, see what happens when you intro our boy in the Hall of Fame. All of a sudden, people want you on the radio.
Yeah, it's great. I can't believe. I mean, the fact that anybody takes anything that we do or say with any level of seriousness is amazing to me always. So 8:30 tomorrow night. I think 8:30 Eastern. I'm going to be on the Herb FM radio show. It's broadcast on StreamYard just like we are here.
Can you send the link to me? I'll put it on the
Adam Lemarese is going to be on there too. PBA superfan Adam Lemarese is going to be on there too. I had a chance to meet him in Ohio as well. So we'll be on there chopping it up a bit, talking bowling a little bit. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out too. But again, we appreciate everybody joining us. It was a packed house tonight in the chat.
Chat was bumping,
and chat was bumping. We appreciate it. And again, always appreciate the support. InsideBowling.com. Get your merch. We're gonna get that shirt up there, Alex. We'll have that up there before our next show.
I'm waiting for my dumpster diving shirt to arrive, so hopefully I could wear it on our next week's hopefully amazing episode that we have.
No doubt. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us, Rob. I will talk to you next week.
Later, guys.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.